Welcome to another edition of the Red Zone podcast. I'm your host, Emmanuel Pointinger, and on today's episode, we are doing the second edition of CFL Tiers after week one. And there was some jump ups, some big ones, but for the most part, there was a lot of one tier or they stayed in their tier. So we're going to talk about it as we get to the bottom of the tiers. Give it to me. We have work in progress when we have the Edmonton Elks staying at the bottom of the tiers. And for Edmonton, it wasn't that bad of a loss. It was in BC Place. The Snoop Doggy Dogg concert took place beforehand. They had 52,000 in attendance. So you knew BC was, going to come out strong and they wanted to win this game. And Nathan Rourke was great. Great early on, but the Edmonton defense, made some big stops on short yardage, at the goal line. I think on the second drive as well, even though they're moving the ball, they got stops, right? And for the Edmonton offense, it was kind of a mix of good and bad. Trey Ford made some plays with his legs. He made an amazing play with his legs earlier in the ball game. Found a receiver. I think it was Justin Rankin. I think it was him. And then he almost ran for a touchdown. Like he made some good plays, but it was too many off throws or just not getting enough for the first down. They had to punt a lot. And in the second half, they kept it close for the first half, but in the second half, BC was running away with it. Nathan Rourke, you know, um, was getting into the end zone, was finishing those drives in the second half, unlike the first half. And Edmonton had a lot of points left on the board. You have two missed field goals, you have a missed extra point, and you had a return by Javon Leake all the way for a touchdown get called back. So that's basically 14 points, math, right there. That's 14 points off the board, and they scored 14 in this game. BC scored 31. So it could have ended 31-28. But instead, it ends 31-14. I don't think Edmonton played a bad game, but it's going to take some time to, I think, gel as a team on offense, on defense, and hopefully they can be better in week two and have a better offense. Because you can't have Trey Ford just running all around. That's not good. He needs to be able to deliver from the pocket and get some first downs through the air. Moving on to our next tier, we have never got out of second gear. We have the Hamilton Tiger Cats. I kind of hinted at this yesterday with Hamilton, but they were able to get out first gear, but just not second gear, right? They had a lot of drives that stalled. Not really two and outs, but just like driving down the field, it looks really good, and then there would be a drop or just like they're short of the first down. Calgary kept everything in front of them, not allowing Bowen that offense to go deep, not allowing Kenny Lawler or Tim White. Everything was just in front of them. And that was a smart game plan, right? It really slowed down that Hamilton offense. And for the defense, it was good early on. I mean, the blitzes got to VA. He threw some interceptions, but the offense just couldn't help him out, right? They only scored 3 points off of those two interceptions and couldn't get into the end zone enough. So that's something I think they're going to have to work on in week two, is just because they were so dynamic near the end of the year and they always seem to start off very, very slow. I don't think Hamilton has won their first game of the year or week one game in like 5 years. So they need to, make sure they win some games here early on and not fall into this massive hole, because it's very, very, very tough to, play catch up, especially this year where the quarterback play seems like it'll be going to another level and there's a lot of parity in the league. So Hamilton, you got to win some games early here in the year, not put yourself behind the eight ball, or not put yourself way behind the eight ball. So they end up in the same spot I had them last week. Let's move on to the next tier, the VA effect. Yes, the Calgary Stampeders. And you saw the effect early. I mean, they were driving on that first drive. And I talked about this yesterday, so I won't really talk about Calgary a lot, but they were driving great on that first drive, 5 for 5, a touchdown. everything was looking very, very good. And you could see it even with the interceptions. I think the second and long conversions, it's something you did not see last year with the Calgary Stampeders. So you could see that effect, and that running game was awesome. Mills, 17 for 94. We talked about it yesterday. 3 touchdowns. It was just really good offensively. Obviously, some stuff you can clean up, but for the most part, it was great. And then the defense also played a pretty good game, keeping everything in front of them, tackling really well, getting stops at good times, special teams showing up with the weird onside kick that was recovered, tipped and recovered, and then the offense went down and scored a touchdown. So really, really good stuff there. The biggest question was their defense and especially stopping the run, and they did that in this game. So at least it starts out well, and they passed the test, let's just say, for week 1. And now let's see if they can keep it up going into week 2. Next tier, that's our QB. Yes, we got the Ottawa Redblacks and the BC Lions, and their quarterbacks played really, really well. For Ottawa, 413 yards for Drew Brown, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. He got injured near the end of the game, so hopefully he is good to go for week 2. But they have a really, really good receiving core. Braylon Addison, Justin Hardy both had really big games in week 1. They also have Eugene Lewis. So really, really good offense. They just need now to get that the running back going and William Stanback. But for the passing game, it looks really, really good despite the loss. But I feel like that loss, the offense was moving down the field, but they just couldn't end with touchdowns. And it was like some punts and field goals, and Saskatchewan really took advantage getting into the end zone. But the offense, it was a good sign. Good sign that Drew Brown was able to have that much success against a very good Saskatchewan defense. So that was really, really good for Ottawa. And then for BC, Nathan O'Rourke, it looked like 2022 again with how he was slinging the football. Not only that, but his efficiency was high. And I think he had 3 touchdown passes in the second half. So he was great. Finding, receivers like, I think Barry Hill, I think he found him twice in the end zone, and then Justin McInnes once. But just really good quarterback play by both of these teams. Now let's get to the next tier. We have Winnipeg. Not too much to talk about there. I said they'll be rested. They'll be rested for week 2. No Zach Collaros because of the suspension, but they're playing in Winnipeg. That crowd is going to be loud, and they're going to run the ball a lot with Brady Oliveira. They should be well rested. That defense, it's young, but I think should be really good this year. They're playing BC on Thursday Night Football, a tough one, but we'll see how they do there. So I kept them at that spot. Next, we have the Argos, and I put benefit of the doubt. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. They had a bad week 1. Nick Arbuckle did not play that well, and they struggled getting going offensively. That defense was good at times, but they got ran on badly, so by Sean Thomas Erlington. But I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt, and hopefully they can rebound. They only dropped down 1, but if they keep losing, they're going to drop down more, obviously. But Toronto, I'm gonna need to see a bit more because week 1 just wasn't good. That Montreal defense, all the credit to them, but Toronto is going to have to be better, at least stay afloat here. And I think they can do that because they have, the coaches, Ryan Dinwiddie, they always find a way to stick, right there until the playoffs, and then they find a way to win Grey Cups. So we'll see what they can do this year. And then we get to the top of the tiers, and we have Saskatchewan and Montreal, defense to offense. I feel like this is how both of these teams won. Saskatchewan, it was their defense getting stops early outside of that first drive where Drew Brown and that offense went to score a touchdown. It was a beautiful drive. But after that, forced them to a lot of punts, and Saskatchewan took advantage, and their offense kind of got going. Sam Emelis had a huge game. So that was good for them. And then Montreal, it was the same thing. The offense was really good throughout the game, actually. The defense, stellar. Stellar as can be, getting turnovers, scoring touchdowns. It was awesome for the Montreal defense. It really picked up where they left off from last season, maybe even better. Who knows? They didn't lose that many pieces, only Reggie Stubblefield on that defense, but they're still really, really good. And then the Davis Alexander era is here, and it is starting on the right foot. He's now 5-0 as a starter. So those two teams are at the top of the tiers as we move on to week 2. It should be a really, really good week. We made predictions yesterday. We talked about the Calgary Stampeders game yesterday. So here we go. Week 2 is here. But that will do it for this edition of the Red Zone podcast, CFL Tiers edition. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Do you agree? Do you disagree on some tiers? Let me know. Let me know what you think. I hope you have a great rest of your Wednesday and your weekend. Go watch some CFL football, and we will see you back right here to break it all down, or at least to break the Calgary Stampeders game down and do predictions. Have a great day. Peace.